Hey everybody, Dave here again, and I've got another exciting video for you. And today we're going to talk about how to take a spreadsheet and modernize it, because maybe you guys are using it for process tracking. And so the whole goal here is that spreadsheets are, great and fine, but at the end of the day, there's a certain amount of limitations that you can do with a spreadsheet before it starts becoming obnoxious and or extremely hard to track. And the ultimate goal here is that inevitably there's going to need to be some increased visibility on what's going on inside of the spreadsheet. And so while it may always seem like a great idea at first, long term there's usually, well, a shortage. So for today's topics, what we wanted to is look at an HR spreadsheet. And this will be like a typical one. And this will be around the process hiring and tracking of candidates. And so one of the things I'm going to try to illustrate here is to kind of ask yourself, why are you tracking it in this way in the first place? And chances are that the answers to these, at least the answers when I ask this question I get back, is because it's easy and because it's what I know. And it's also because it's not large enough for IT to spend any significant amount of time to build or write a custom app around it. And then I ask, well, how essential is it to what it is that you do, your role, and or the role of others, and the department as a whole? And inevitably, at some point in time, tracking things in a spreadsheet are great as long as it's for you personally. And that's usually the rule of thumb that I always use. If you're tracking something in a spreadsheet for you and only you, and you're not going to have to report, things to your boss, or maybe you can use it for that, but the bottom line is it's usually only scoped to just you, then it's probably okay. But if you're collaborating with others, and you need to give status updates on what's going on as you're collaborating with others, then spreadsheets are an absolute, in today's modern day and age, a really bad way to do it. And so this is, covering the topic of why or when you would want to use a spreadsheet. And so I pretty much just illustrated that right here. And now what I want to do is I want to show a spreadsheet, and I want to show how would you go about breaking it down to make an application out of it. And so the intended target audience for this is citizen developers that know enough about Powerapps, that can continue to use a spreadsheet in an advanced way. You know enough about being able to use formulas in a spreadsheet, and or IT that is using Microsoft Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Platform to create apps within the business. So let's begin. So here we are in a typical Excel spreadsheet, and this is a candidate tracker, and this is what an HR department is using. And so what I want to do is try to go over this very large, well, to be honest with you, I've seen some that are absolutely insane. This is pretty mild, to be honest with you. So the problem, though, is that even as small as this is, it's still a lot of information. And so if we look at this, we can make some deductions, especially if you've never seen this before, which you guys have not. So the way to look at this is to kind of evaluate, if you're a staff member in HR and you were handed this spreadsheet and you just did an interview, chances are you could probably figure out what information needs to go where and why. And so at the top you'll see that there are columns. So this is the data point that we're going to be collecting information on. And then we can see down the corner here that these are names of people. And then we also see that there's some categories. It looks like, oh, maybe they're departments, because we start deducting that people belong to departments, and these look like typical department names. And as we scroll down, we see, oh, okay, there's 3 departments. But then we notice this other thing up here, info. And then we start trying to deduce, well, what is that having to do with the context of dealing with this? And then we scan over a little bit more, and we see that the color has changed from information or info to phone screening. And if we continue to scroll over, we notice that it changes again. Now this is in what's called internal only. So that because of the way the thing is formatted, we're able to capture lots of different information at different parts of or different steps of the process. So we can see that we have some general information about a candidate and its columns as it relates to the information gathering. We see that there's some phone screening, and in this particular process, hopefully you can already see how problematic this is going to be. So currently, within the phone screening process, it looks like they're only asking 2 questions. What if you wanted to add 3 or 4? That would throw this spreadsheet into chaos and really mess with its formatting and make it even potentially more unusable than it already is. So then the question begs, how long do we continue to track information in this manner? And the answer is, well, I guess as long as you're the only one using it. Because if you have to break this down to others, which is fine, it's honestly, it's a very nice spreadsheet. But the problem is that collaborating with others, especially if you're the one that created this spreadsheet, people may not take the same passion that you took in putting this together. And so they just want to do their jobs. And so they're going to look at this as a tool for which they have to deal with, and some people are going to do it better than others. So, for example, even though this is quite nice looking, you're going to run into issues where you have capitalization and consistency. So yes might be answered as, just like you see here, yes, with the first letter capitalized. In some instances, it may be lowercase, all yes. Somebody may be really lackadaisical and just type Y. And then you've got issues over here where we have experience and we have date ranges that are like this. And so the question then becomes, what is the standardization? So it's more than just training somebody on a spreadsheet. It's, number one, this is the tool that we use to capture the information. And then a trainee or a trainer has to communicate to the trainee what the expectation is for data constraints, meaning for this field, we will only choose 1 year or 4 year. Now, there are ways of producing drop-downs in Excel, and that would be absolutely awesome, but that typically exceeds even some of the more advanced users. They may or may not even know how to do that. And so as a result of this, again, we're left with people just kind of nilly-willy doing whatever it is that they want. Phone numbers, another huge problem. So in this instance, as long as we have local or domestic numbers like this, where they're not prefixing it with +1 or whatever, this works absolutely fine. But some people may add spaces. Some people may put parentheses around the area code and omit the first dash. So over time, as the spreadsheet grows, you're going to get lots of data inconsistencies. And so you may be saying, Dave, okay, this is fine, and you're nitpicking. What's the problem with this? Well, for data entry, it's not a problem. But there's a saying in data, and if you've ever worked in IT or reporting or anything of that nature, there's a saying that says garbage in, garbage out. And so if you've got junk data, then you're going to get junk reports. And as a result of that, the people that consume these reports is usually executive and senior management. These are people that are needing to make actionable decisions based on the reports that you provide. And if you have to spend hours, days, and weeks entering the data, then circling back each and every week because, well, you have a report due to your supervisor, and cleaning up the data mistakes of other people, as your department grows, as the dependency on the spreadsheet grows, your time is going to get stretched thinner and thinner and thinner. So this is why applications being tracked in a spreadsheet that really should be applications is a bad idea. And so the easy fix is, in today's day and age, with the Microsoft Power Platform, you have Power Automate, you have Power Apps, you have all of these tools that's baked into the platform that makes it just as easy and accessible as a spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you how to break this down into a set of tables that could be used in separate SharePoint lists to leverage the, out-of-the-box functionality with the Microsoft Power Platform that comes included with most standard Office 365 licenses and won't require you to incur any additional charges with premium licenses. Now, I got to be honest with you. If you're only going to have a handful of people in a department, say 15, 20, 10, something reasonable or manageable, then it may be worth it for your company to spring for the premium licenses and use Microsoft Dataverse, which is a database that powers the Power Platform. I would highly recommend that you do that, because while SharePoint is a good stopgap measure, just like Excel is, SharePoint is not a relational database. It's not a really good repository to put your data long term. Does it work? Yes. Does Excel work? Yes. But there are nuances, there are issues, and over time it's going to be, well, challenging to say the least to potentially deal with it. So why not start with the end in mind and start with the outcome in mind and simply just put it into Dataverse? But that does come at a premium, and you will need to pay for additional licensing for those that need to use this app. The good news is, in most recent years, the Microsoft Power Platform has changed their licensing model quite significantly, and they've added into it a, let's see here, Powerapps Pricing. Yeah, this should be exactly what we're looking for here. Yep. So if you're an IT department or an HR department and you simply just want to use this on a single application, extra $5 per month, per user, per app, per month. The actual normal license is $20 per user per month, and you can not only run this one app that I'm going to show you, but you can run unlimited apps and portals for one low monthly cost of $20 additional per head. Now, this particular application is a candidate tracker. Now, if your company goes through seasons, like right now, we are in an economic downturn, which is all the more justification for dealing with the Microsoft Power Platform and putting your applications inside of it, as opposed to tracking it in spreadsheets. But you may experience hiring freezes. And so, as it relates to this particular application, we are tracking candidates that come into the business. Well, if you're on a 5-month, 3-month, quarterly, semi-annually, or even a full year, where you're not going to use this application because you're in a hiring freeze, then maybe the subscription model of $10 per month per app is a good option for you, because you're only going to pay for the licensing that you need when you need it or when you use it. And if people go on vacation or they don't get into the app all that often, and maybe out of a team of 10 or 15 people, there's only 3 core folks that are in this app at any one given time or consistently, then this may be another great option. But I can't tell you what pricing theoretically to buy in a video. I would need to talk to you one-on-one and do some consultation. So on my personal website at davidsoden.com, you can schedule an appointment or time with me to discuss whatever it is that your organization may be going through. Now, in all honesty and fair disclosure, I personally am not going to consult with you one-on-one. I will consult with you through my company, and it may be me. It may also be me and a couple of other folks. But either way, the folks in the company that I currently work for at Concentrix Catalyst would be more than happy to meet with you guys to discuss whatever it is that you need. I'm simply providing this YouTube video as some education to kind of bolster some activity on the Power Platform, and I like helping people, so this is why I do it. So back to the spreadsheet. As we deal with trying to break this down, I have a bunch of hidden tabs. I've already done the work here. And so what I'm going to do is essentially just walk everybody through what it is that I split apart. So before I go unhiding all of this, what I wanted to do is to show you that I have all of these additional tables based on this one table. So you see that everything is smashed up into this candidate screening tracker. Well, I created a table for department. I created a table for internal. I created another table for the candidate. I created another table for questions and another table for phone screening. So all of the same functionality, but with a twist in that there is the greatest amount of flexibility in this so that we can do lots of additional things. So if we come over here and we look at engineering and we look at marketing and we look at operations on rows 3, 8, and 13, these essentially are departments or categories. So why not simply just create a table like this and we can add additional departments down the road. Very easy, very flexible. And the other good thing is that we don't have to make a mess with the formatting of our spreadsheet if we wanted to remove and or add additional departments. It also makes finding the departments so much easier too when we get this into an application. Now here are all of the internal columns and some additional columns. So you may be saying, okay, well, what's internal? So if we come over here to internal use only, this is going to cover columns L through, what is this? Row, I guess, columns L through R. And so that's what this internal table is here. Now each one of these tables, you'll notice that I have this green formatted column, okay? And so this is the ID. And I don't want to get into database design too much, but I do want to say that, you know, each table should have its own ID. And so these IDs can be referenced, and I'll show you this a little bit later. The tables can be related to one another, much like everything was jacked up together into Spreadsheet. We can still have the information related, but it's not all jammed up into one area. And so if we come over here to candidates, now we have a list of just our candidates. And again, we have the IDs, but notice we have a reference to what department they belong to. So Charles Manigan, he belongs to department number 1, and it's referring to the ID or the key in the department. So if we come over to department and see 1, we know that this is operations. Now the application handles all of this for you, so you don't have to worry about it, but you may need somebody in IT to help you break apart maybe a spreadsheet to model. If you don't have that, obviously reaching out to us, we can help you take your spreadsheet and deconstruct it so that it works inside of an application and that you know, there's not anything forgotten. And so here's all the information regarding the candidates. Here's the nice thing and the very powerful thing about questions. So the questions, we can add questions till our heart is content, you know, unlimited amount of questions. Every question has an ID column as well. Now, when we're in a phone screening, remember when I said that we can relate information to each other? The way that this is modeled is that we have its own, you know, this is the phone screening table, so it has its own ID column. But we also have a candidate table, and we just showed you that question table. And so those tables, they have their IDs, and that's what all these IDs are here. And this is a rating. And so this is the rating that we had currently in the existing spreadsheet. And so one of the neat things about this is if we were to grit and whittle this down to a distinct list of what's in here, then the beautiful part about it is that this can now be a drop down. And this will provide data constraints in a form within an app that somebody can do giving an answer. And so here we got, you know, again, all of the questions, and you can see that these questions are part of the phone screening, which you're going to ask a specific candidate. And so this is what's being recorded in this table. So this is kind of like an answer phone screening log table. And so this is how we were able to take 5 separate tables and break it apart so that this spreadsheet is now properly designed or broken apart, so that in another video, what we're going to do is we're going to take these 5 tables and we're going to put them into SharePoint. And then in another video, we're going to show you the same steps in putting it into Microsoft Dataverse. And we're going to build the same app with 2 different ends. And as a result of this, all of this information will be up on the YouTube video and the Git library. And so you'll be able to go in and grab all of these examples and all of this information. So hopefully you'll be able to replicate something similar. And again, if you need any help, just go ahead and reach out to us. That's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one where we begin creating these applications.